Our top story here at 7. It has now been 3 days since the collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. Investigators are revealing a timeline on exactly how that tragedy unfolded.
We're also learning more about the victims. So far, 2 bodies have been pulled from that river. A total of 6 men, though, believed to have plunged into those cold waters when the bridge fell. We have team coverage for you again this morning. Jacqueline Matter and Stephanie Ramirez joining us from Baltimore.
Stephanie is focusing on the victims this morning, but we begin with Jacqueline Matter for more on that timeline of this tragedy. Jacqueline.
Well, Steve, Marissa, this morning we are getting a better understanding of what led up to the bridge collapsing in that cargo ship hitting the bridge. We're also getting a better understanding as well as where the NTSB investigation currently stands. So investigators spent the day yesterday talking and interviewing with the crew on board the ship, collecting evidence and creating that timeline of what went wrong. One of the key takeaways being that numerous alarms went off on that ship before the collision happened. So let's take a look here at some of the key moments of that timeline. At approximately 12:39 a.m., that is when the ship departed from the Seagirt Marine Terminal. Around 1:07 a.m., the ship enters into the Fort McHenry Channel. At 1:26, the pilot calls for tugboats. 1:27:04 a.m., the pilot ordered the crew to drop the anchor. Then milliseconds later, at 1:27:25, that is when the pilot reported the power outage through the radio. Around that same time is when traffic officers shut down the bridge to oncoming traffic. At 1:29 a.m., data shows the ship moving just under 8 miles per hour. And at 1:29:33, that's when audio recordings indicate the collision. 5 milliseconds later, at 1:29:39, that's when the pilot reports that the Key Bridge has fallen down. Now, the NTSB also speaking yesterday after their investigation, talking a little bit about the hazardous material that was on board that cargo ship and that they had found it had spilled into the water. Take a listen.
Containers of hazardous materials. That's 764 tons of hazardous materials, mostly corrosives, flammables, and some miscellaneous hazardous materials, class 9 hazardous materials, which would include lithium-ion batteries. Some of the hazmat containers were breached.
You heard there NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy talking about the breach of some of those materials. She confirmed that one of the materials on board included sheen, which is used in paint. That did, in fact, leak into the water. She also says, as you heard her mention, lithium-ion batteries were in some of the containers. Those were breached as well. We are also told today that the NTSB will interview the pilot. This is going to be a key critical piece of evidence to hear their side of what happened in those moments leading up to the crash. We are also learning now 2 bodies were pulled from the water yesterday and they have been identified. Our Stephanie Ramirez joining us live with those details and more information on those victims.